Welcome back to the Junkman's Adventures. I'm the Junkman, and today we're going to restore my old Tonka grader. Now this was mine when I was a kid. Obviously it got left out. It's pretty sun faded, and the graphics are worn off, and as you notice, the blade came off of it. Actually, it didn't come off. I actually took this off to use as a snowplow blade for one of my RC trucks. So anyway, we're going to take this apart, restore it, put the blade on, and do a little light customization on it. So anyway, let's get started. Well, now you've seen me take apart a bunch of other toys in my other videos, so I'm just going to speed through this, but you'll see what I had to do here. Get those wheel caps off any way that you can, grind them off, cut them off, pull them off to get the wheels apart. Use vice grips if you have to, just tear them up. There we go. And I'll take the tires off the rims, bend all the tabs that are needed, and just wiggle and pull and pry. Take the engine out the back. All that stuff will be washed up with soap and water and degreaser later. Take all the parts you can apart, and we're ready to go. And using some paint stripper here, and after cleaning that off, we're going to go to town with our clean and strip disc. And you've seen me do this before, so just going all over the toy, getting the rust off here, making a nice base for our self-etching primer step that'll come next. And before we remove these decals, we need to measure them so we can replicate them later, but I need to know what size the originals were. Nobody's currently reproducing these particular decals, so I'm going to have to make my own. And now we'll just use that same clean strip disc, take it all apart. Now I'm showing you here where the rivet that rivets the blade on and the little detent that holds it into position, that rivet comes loose and then the detents don't hold, and the performance of the grader is not very good. So we're just going to get rid of that rivet right now. Going to use our right angle grinder with a grinding disc on it and just take care of that. And we're going to test fit our bolt and nut here. And we're using a lock nut here. And then as you can see, that detent up there, we're going to drill that out and just make a pin that goes in there so it can most securely lock the blade into position. So when we're grading those sand out in the sandbox, it'll stay in position and do a good job for us. Alright, I put the self-etching primer on and I masked off the outside so I could shoot the black interior. I decided it would make a nice contrast to all the yellow that's going to be going on this. So I'll have to mask the inside before I spray the yellow. While all that's drying, we're going to make up those decals. Just using a basic online editing program, made up my graphics, printed them out onto some adhesive-backed clear decal paper. Just using my cutting mat and rolling cutter here and a straight edge to cut out the hashed decals that will go up on the upper beam of the grader. And you'll see right now how that works out with those hashed marks, the way I spaced them and the sizing. Did the best I could to replicate what was originally there. Now we're going to use a straight edge and a sharp utility knife to cut out the decals that are going to go on the sides of the cab. And I might note that I did spray these a top coat with an acrylic clear coat just to protect the printer ink. And we're going to clear coat over these after painting but this is an initial step just so when I'm putting them down here, rubbing with my finger, it doesn't smear the ink or potentially rub it off the sticker paper. And the hash decals that go on that upper beam, we're going to kind of measure them out. I made them longer than I needed so I could cut them to length, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Now here's a neat little part. I chose to leave it clear and not have the printer print white, so the yellow will match through or see through the hashes of the decal. I thought it'd add a little bit of extra flair to it. That's part of the custom part. You could do it differently. I didn't really like the original white graphics. It looked a little too out of place, and that's why I decided to do kind of the black and yellow motif along with the blackened out interior of the cab, which when it's assembled you'll see that later. Now we're gonna get ready to put the clear coat over everything, and I'm using my 3M Accuspray PPS system here. You can see the gun there, disposable cup and liner, and I'm using a 2-part or catalyzed urethane clear coat here. It's left over from some other projects. I really like it because it dries hard yet flexible, so it's got some impact resistance to it, and it's proved to be very good as over decals and things. It doesn't generally bother them, and it also affords some more UV stability because that printer ink obviously is not going to hold up too long outside in the sun without some added protection. When we're mixing to a 4:1 ratio here per the instructions. Just mix it up, put the disposable lid, which also has a filter in it, put the locking ring on, and we'll put the tip on the gun, and then that locks onto the tip, and then we're ready to go. We're using a 1.4 tip to spray out this particular material. I'm just doing a little testing spray out. I have my shop pressure dialed down and then adjusting my gun pressure down to, I forget, but I believe I was running at about 15 to 18 psi here. Is what gave me the best pattern and then the best spray out. We're just going along here and putting a light tack coat at first, and then we're going to do a heavier gloss coat, and just being careful about runs, but I'll spray it all up and we'll have 2 coats of clear. Should be good durability and good shine. And we're done with that. Just taking the gun apart, we can just take the nozzle off, and we can clean the nozzle, and it's reusable, and then throw away the liner and the cap, and all you have to do is wipe off the needle here, and your gun is clean. Alright, assembly is just the reverse of taking it apart. This was after a couple days of cure time, so that clear coat and everything would be nice and clear. So we remember how to put everything back on. And there we go. Now it's time to put the wheels and tires back on and the axles through. Now I washed everything up with soap and water, put the little exhaust pipe in, bend our tabs, and we're going to be ready to go here. putting the blade on, and fine-tuning, tightening up that nylon lock nut. I want just a little bit of friction there, so it'll kind of hold. And then we'll just put our little pin in there, and it's locked in. Put our wheels on, and we'll put our axle caps on the one side, using 2 sockets to drive them home so we don't break the wheels. Okay, here we are out in the dirt pile, and let's perform a little test between this Tonka Road Grader and the Nylint Road Grader that I restored earlier. The Nylint's from the mid to late 60s, the Tonka is from the late 70s, early 80s. And you can see the tires. Nylint definitely gets the nod for more realism with the tractor tread chevron and the walking beam axles. Unlike the Tonka, which the axles just slide in a groove. Not real realistic, but gets the job done. Looking at the rears, they look representative of their era of graders. Alice Chalmers for the Nylint, and a Galleon or Cat for the Tonka. As you can see, the steering here, not very realistic on the Tonka, more realistic with the linkage type on the Nylint. Let's test out some performance here. As you can see, there's lots of adjustment for that blade height and a little bit of down pressure because this grader is heavy. It can actually scrape along the ground. You can see we're actually digging in to the terra firma with this grader, and it takes some effort to push it through, so you can really get some work done with this. And here's the result of that one pass here. I think it looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the Tonka. Lowering the blade goes down to almost even with the wheels, so it doesn't really dig in. There's not a lot of down pressure available, so it can only really move loose dirt. Probably for more fine leveling, but not an actual digging into the road surface, and you can really tell it here. But side by side, they both look great. They both operate very well. I really like both of them. I have fond memories of myself playing with them, and now my son is going to have some fond memories of playing with both of them, and it's just building out his construction equipment arsenal. So I'm glad you watched this video, and I wish you would subscribe, check out my website, give a like, share this video, comment below, tell me what I did wrong, and thanks for watching.